Hey, what's up guys? A bunch of new weapons were just announced and they honestly look absolutely amazing. So I figured I should make a quick, hopefully shorter video just going over them, talking about why they're so good and on which characters you should use them. All the stats and weapons used in this video are actually official information. They were confirmed, so I can really go into more details and talk to you guys about how good these weapons are. These weapons include some really powerful free-to-play ones and one 5-star that's going to be on a weapon banner. So there are going to be like good weapons for basically every player, both for free-to-play and for whales. So of the 4 weapons that they confirmed, basically one of them is PlayStation only. One of them is a 5-star that we're going to have to wish for, or, if you want it. And then the other 2 are both free-to-play options that we're getting for free from an event, and we can refine them all the way up to rank 5 very easily. And while the way to get them is written down here, obviously it's not out yet, so I'm not exactly sure. Just do keep in mind that this Claymore says event shop, so it looks like it'll be limited time, whereas the other one just says fishing association, which might be even more accessible. But anyways, we have a few weapons to look at. Normally you would start with the 5-star weapon. You're probably expecting me to start with the 5-star, but I'm actually not gonna, because the catch is absolutely broken. And I want to start by talking about this because everyone's gonna have access to it, and it's a lot better than what it might look like. It's literally a 5-star weapon disguised as a 4-star. The reason I say that is because this is not only free-to-play friendly, like it's a free-to-play weapon, but the stats on it, especially when you refine it, are absolutely amazing and can be the best 4-star option bar none for a few characters. What this weapon does is give you a base stack of 510, which is whatever, but it also gives you 45% energy recharge and an insane effect, increasing your burst damage and burst crit rate. Now, while this is only 16% and 6% respectively for the burst damage and the crit rate at refinement 1, this goes up a lot with refinement. And while the official stats for refinement isn't confirmed, this is basically the same effect as Festering Desire, so we can look at that and just assume that it will double. Most effects do tend to double when there are 5 actually, and so you'll effectively gain 32% burst damage and 12% burst crit rate. For a character like Xiangling, whose damage primarily comes from her burst, the catch is going to be her best 4-star option if you do need the energy recharge. The reason for that is because gaining 32% damage and 12% crit rate on your burst, on top of 45% energy recharge, which is literally the equivalent of like 7 to 10 substats, which is an insane amount, is just so many stats that you're pumping into your character that it can very easily be your best 4-star option, even compared to other weapons that aren't like free to play. And having energy recharge on the stat is really good because it allows you to either have worse artifacts, so get away with lower energy recharge or less energy recharge on your substats, or even better artifacts. Let's say you're at the point where you can min max, or your artifacts just have a bunch of like attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, elemental mastery. You can get a lot more of those stats, a lot more damage, without needing to build energy recharge on your artifacts. On top of that, for characters that would run the Emblem of Severed Fate set, this new polearm is absolutely amazing because the energy recharge that you're going to gain is going to be converted to damage as well, right? You're going to gain some elemental burst damage with the emblem set, which makes this polearm even better. In terms of specific characters, as I mentioned, I think this will be the best 4-star option, and especially the best free-to-play option for characters like Xiangling and Ball, who both really care about their energy recharge and their bursts damage. And then for a character like Rosaria, this can be very good as well. However, I wouldn't recommend it for Xiao as the passive doesn't work, and it isn't my favorite for Zhongli either. It can be a decent option if you're like free to play and don't have any other spears, because it does increase your burst damage, but generally speaking, I don't like this as much as some other options, since energy recharge on Zhongli is kind of weird and not really needed, especially if you're running a shield build. Also, the last polearm character I didn't mention is Shoutout, but again, you don't really need energy recharge for her, and there's just a lot of better 4-star options for Shoutout. Overall though, this spear is amazing. It is definitely one of the weapons I'm looking forward to the most, being an insane option for characters like Xiangling and Ball especially, but also like Rosaria. And also I did want to add that for the exact calculations, like how good the catch is compared to other weapons, since that's very highly dependent on the character and your substats and all that stuff, I will be giving a weapon ranking for specific character guides in the future, so be sure to look out for that and watch those videos if you want to know more information, especially regarding how good the catch is compared to other weapons on characters like Ball and Xiangling, who I'm both going to make a guide on, and obviously including the other new weapons that we're going to talk about as well. Now, while we're talking about free-to-play 4-star options, I guess we'll talk about the Claymore, and we'll leave the 5-star for the end. Basically, this Claymore looks hilarious. I know this doesn't really matter, and I will talk about its stats, but honestly, just for the look alone, this is something I'm going to use and I just love. You can literally slap people with a fish with like Sayu, or maybe set it on fire with Diluc, and it's honestly pretty hilarious. But stat-wise, it does give you attack percent, a high attack percent stat with a base stack of 454. Now, keep in mind, this base stack is pretty low. When you compare compare it to the prototype Archaic, which is on screen now, Archaic has a much higher base attack and lower attack percent. While generally the DPS difference isn't like massive, usually having a higher base attack is more important than having high attack percent, because having high base attack will basically amplify the attack percent you gain from external sources, like maybe with Bennett, Pyro Resonance, Noblesse Oblige, or stuff like that. Basically, base attack is just good. At Refinement 1, you gain 12% elemental burst damage, and once again, assuming that it doubles at Refinement 5, 24% elemental burst damage, that's actually pretty huge for specific characters like Beidou. On top of that, when your burst hits an opponent, it literally summons a tuna, or an onrush of tuna that deals 100% of your attack as AoE damage, which isn't that good of an effect, but I assume the tuna will be pretty funny, so there's that. Overall though, for a character like Beidou, this is going to be your best free-to-play option because of the burst damage that you'll gain, and the attack percent is really good for her and can be a great option. I don't think it's the best 4-star overall though. Weapons like Serpent Spine do seem to still just outclass it, but it is a good free-to-play option. For a character like Eula, this weapon is similar to Archaic and Snow-Tombed, to where if you already have one of those, I wouldn't level this up to replace it, because the DPS this gives you is pretty similar. Yes, the burst damage it increases is huge, but it's usually about the same DPS as like a refined prototype Archaic. In case you're wondering, the reason for that is because Eula, yes, her burst has a massive scaling, and it's a big part of her damage, but she also deals a lot of damage from her normal attacks and like her hold E. She does have other sources to her damage than just her burst. Whereas a character like Beidou, like basically all of her damage comes from her burst and, you know, some damage from her skill. Whereas Eula, yes, still has an amazing burst, so a lot of her damage does come from her burst, but she also has a more mixed sort of damage spread since she's a main DPS, constantly auto-attacking and also using her skill. Overall though, this weapon is really good, but again, it's not something you need to level if you already have something like Archaic or Snow-Tombed, and it isn't better than some other 4-star options. It's not really on the same level as like the Catch for Xiangling, but it is still a very good and viable free-to-play weapon for Eula. For a character like Chongyun, and I guess Xinyan too, if you're using them as a burst support, increasing your burst damage on this Claymore can be pretty great. But for someone like Diluc, you'd rather go prototype Archaic still, although it does look really funny and cool, so that is something to keep in mind. All in all, I think it's amazing for Beidou and also viable for characters like Eula and Chongyun. Now for the 5-star weapon, the new Polearm that's going to be on a weapon banner, this weapon looks good, but I do want to be a bit more critical about it since the other two were free to play and everyone's going to get them and they're really good. This one you will have to spend Primo Gems to get. However, this will still be obviously an honest review, talking about if it's good or not, but again, as I mentioned with the Catch, I will be testing it and doing more calcs for specific characters when it is out, especially if I decide to pull for it. Now with that being said, what does this Polearm do? Well, first of all, the base attack is pretty nice. 608 base attack is obviously higher than any of the 4-star weapons we looked at, and it's basically the same as Staff of Homa, so a pretty good base attack with a high energy recharge stat, 55% being pretty nice. On top of that, the effect increases your attack based on your energy recharge. As you can see, you gain 28% of any energy recharge you have over the base 100 for a maximum of 80%, and you also gain 30% energy recharge after you use your burst for 12 seconds. This second part of the effect with the stat just gives you a ton of energy recharge, and all that energy recharge will also increase your attack, gaining 28% of it of whatever energy recharge you have over 100. Personally, I believe this weapon is really good for characters that need energy recharge. I don't think this is a universal polearm, kind of like the Catch. I think this will be amazing and probably best in slot on someone like Ball, great for someone like Xiangling, potentially Rosaria. Polearm characters that care about their burst want to spam it on cooldown with high energy recharge, and especially if they're running the Emblem of Severed Fate set. But for the typical like DPS auto-attacking characters like Shao, like Hu Tao, I wouldn't recommend this polearm. That being said, this attack percent can actually be more than what you might think. Basically, this second part of your effect gives you 30% ER, which will, from my understanding, and the weapon's not out yet, so we'll test it, but it does seem like this 30% will be converted into attack as well. So just from this weapon, you're getting 55% energy recharge plus another 30 for a total of 85% energy recharge. If you convert that 85% into attack, into that attack you're gaining, 28% of that 85 would be 24% or 23.8% attack you're gaining. And on top of that, if you are running the Emblem of Severed Fate set, so let's say you use this polearm on someone like Xiangling or someone like Ball, and they are on the 4-piece emblem, that emblem set will also give you 20% energy recharge, meaning that just from that and the 85% you're gaining here, right, 55 plus another 30, that is over 100% bonus energy recharge, giving you almost 30% attack and converting your ER into burst damage with the Emblem of Severed Fate 4-piece. On top of that, if your energy recharge is 200%, which you can have, right, with this weapon, its effect, its passive, and the 2-piece of emblem, you will gain 50% burst damage from the Emblem of Severed Fate 4-piece, and you'll have more than enough energy recharge to spam your burst on cooldown. While 200% ER is more than what you need, right, having having all of that on your weapon and your 2-piece set and converting all of that into damage, into attack percent is really, really nice. On top of that, it allows you to just not need energy recharge on any of your artifacts since you already have so much. Because of that, I recommend it for characters like Ball, Xiangling, or Rosaria, as I mentioned earlier. It can be okay for Zhongli, but not the best since energy recharge on him isn't really what you want to be maxing. And obviously it's not ideal for someone like Xiao or Hu Tao. Now, lastly, there's a bow that's only available for PlayStation users. This is the Predator bow. This is something that I don't want to cover in detail, so I'll just do it very briefly. Basically, this is a weapon made for Alloy. You have a high base attack, some attack percent, effective only for PlayStation players, and it increases your normal and charge attack damage by 10% when you deal cryo damage. And then it also increases your attack by 66 when you use this on Alloy. Now, keep in mind, these numbers will increase with the refinement. This is refinement 1. It does look good for Alloy on the PlayStation as a great free-to-play option, but there's not really much to this bow and it's PlayStation only, so I'm going to leave it at that. And so overall, I'm really excited for these new weapons. They're absolutely amazing. Free-to-play players are really getting a treat. And even just as a 4-star option, the catch is literally so good on certain characters. It's kind of like a buff to Xiangling, being really comparable to 5-star weapons. As I mentioned earlier in the video, for exact weapon rankings on every character, be on the lookout for my new Xiangling and Beidou guides, which will feature both of these weapons, and obviously Ball when she comes out. The 5-star weapon is also great, although it is, expensive. It does cost Primo Gems. And overall, I feel like these new weapons are great because they help literally every type of player, once again, with these free-to-play options and the 5-star weapon. So yeah, that's about it for me. A bit of a shorter video this time because we're mainly just talking about the new weapons. I hope it was informative and I hope you learned a lot. And I'm really looking forward to getting them and leveling them up because the new weapons look pretty sick. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.